Pittsburgh Steelers looking for their second victory of the season. They had that rousing win in Buffalo to start the 2021 campaign. 3 losses in a row, and now a quarterback who is more and more banged up. Here's Mike Tomlin, coach of the Steelers, earlier today talking about the health of Ben Roethlisberger.
Ben also has some hip issues relative to play. We'll let their practice participation be our guide in terms of their availability.
Continuing with the Ben questions, is he the best quarterback for this offense? And if so, what makes him that way?
Absolutely. What he does and what he's done makes me really comfortable in saying that.
Yeah, what he's done, and given the fact that their alternatives are Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins, look, they decided in the offseason, and there are so few times that I'm actually right about something, I am going to enjoy the fact that I'm right. I don't enjoy the fact that Steelers are struggling, but I like the fact that I'm vindicated by what I said back in March. Now watch, they're going to win the rest of their games, and they're going to finish 14-3. But I said they're going to regret this. Both sides are going to regret this. They should not be doing it. Now is the time to move on to a new quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger at 39 with all the wear and tear, with the anti-TB12 approach to pliability and nutrition and extending your longevity as a football player, it had disaster written all over it. And I don't relish the fact that it looks like it's a disaster, but I was right so far. So far. We'll see. It can all turn around. I thought maybe it was going to turn around at Lambeau Field. And maybe if the officials don't blow that offside call on the blocked field goal, it changes momentum, it changes everything. And they'll probably win this week against Denver. Their backs are as pressed against the wall as they can be. But if you've got hip issues on top of the pec injury, and this guy's 39 and he keeps getting banged around, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak, Charean.
And you think about it, I know a lot of people don't like the quarterback's record as a starter, but the Steelers' record with Big Ben as a starter last season was 12-3. They've already lost that many games this season, Mike. They're not the same team. Their running game was supposed to be better, right? Najee Harris was coming in. They were going to be better. They rebuilt their offensive line. That's trash. They still rank at the bottom in rushing. They're getting no rushing help, and that's really putting a lot of pressure on Big Ben that he doesn't need. He, at 39, and with the body that he has and the number of hits that he's taken, he really needs a running game to go with him, and he's not gotten that. Now, he wasn't pressured this past game. He was only pressured on 7% of his throws. He threw it 40 times. He was only hit 5 times, came out of that game with the hip injury. It was the lowest pressure percentage for a quarterback with at least 40 pass attempts to lose since 2013. So he didn't face that much pressure, but yet the Steelers still lost because they're not able to run the ball and they're not able to do some other things to help him out. And his passer rating, it's ahead of only 4 players, Brissett and 3 rookies. So he is struggling, they are struggling, and you're right, if there was another option back there, if they felt good about Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins, they would be playing right now, not Ben Roethlisberger.
What I said a couple of weeks ago, I want to reiterate because others are starting to say the same thing. Not that I insist that people say, Florio was the first one to say it, because it's not like I split the atom here. But I predicted and still believe that he's going to go on injured reserve and never come back, that's what's going to happen at some point. And I don't know what the over-under is. He's got a Sunday night football game coming up. Does he want to suffer through that indignity? I don't know. But, a lot of guys find a way to fight through and play through injuries that would easily justify not playing. And at this stage of his career, there's no reason for Ben Roethlisberger to keep doing it. He's not going to walk off into the sunset with the Super Bowl trophy tucked under his arm like Jerome Bettis did. It's just not going to happen. The special teams have typically declared themselves by now. And I know that nothing's impossible. I know that they could find a way to turn it around. I know that the light bulb could go off and the offense could be dramatically better and the offensive line all of a sudden becomes as good as any Steelers offensive line has ever been. Nothing's impossible. Every game can potentially change a team's fortunes. But based on almost 25% of the season, it's fair to say that this team is not a threat to get to the Super Bowl. And once, as a practical matter, Ben Roethlisberger comes to terms with that and the team does, there's no reason for him to play. There is no reason for him to do it. If he's not playing at a high level, you don't want to be Willie Mays at the end of his career. You don't want to be Joe Namath at the end of his career. You don't want to limp to the finish line, and I could see him ending up on injured reserve, Charean, and just quietly going away.
Yeah, you've said that all along, Mike, and that very well could happen. And, this is a team, again, that hasn't had a losing record since 2003, and they're certainly headed that way. And unfortunately, a little bit like Eli Manning, we remember Eli Manning a little bit for the end of his career instead of what happened with those 2 Super Bowl victories and how good he always was in the playoffs, coming up with his biggest plays of his career. That's sort of the way it's heading here with Big Ben. If he had stopped after last season, you'd go, well, you know what, they lost in the first round of the playoffs, but look, they won their first 11 games. They only lost 3 games with him as their quarterback. He ended kind of on a high note. They were at one point, we were talking about them as one of the best teams in the NFL. Okay, that's a good time to call it quits. And now he's come back, and this just looks like a just terrible season for the Steelers, perhaps their worst since 2003, and not really the way you want to go out if you're Ben Roethlisberger, and not really the way you want to see Ben Roethlisberger go out if you're the Steelers or a Steeler fan.
No good way out of this, only bad ways. The challenge is finding the least bad way out of it right now for Roethlisberger and the Steelers, barring something unforeseen, which is why they play the games.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.